Hello, another follow-up on our favorite drug, caffeine, right? So, if you have a lot of iron in your diet, that will be good for you. It'll be good for blood cell generation and limiting blah blah blah, which, RBCs, red blood cells. The more iron you have in them, the more you have an ability to pull in oxygen to rust that iron. Because, that's how rust works, right? Rust works is that it's a reaction between iron and oxygen, and that's the same thing that your blood uses. That's why your blood gets red when there's air in it, is because the oxygen is rusting the iron. Funny enough, water doesn't rust iron. What water does is it catalyzes the reaction between iron and oxygen so that the iron oxidizes a lot faster. And that's why if you leave something iron in the rain, it'll rust really, really quickly, because the catalyst is huge. And people often underestimate in the world and in chemistry the effect that a catalyst can have on things. For example, whatever his name, Rapist Brock, what's that guy's name?
Turner, Brock.
Thank you. Rapist Brock Turner, athletic rapist, beautiful, privileged white dude full of dreams, who is also a rapist, his situation and its media coverage may serve to be a huge catalyst for better anti-rape legislation, for recognizing the amount of effect that privilege has on our society, which is something that I think the people who aren't privileged aren't often given the information about that, or are but aren't given the tools to deal with anything about it, to deal with it, versus the people that are privileged often don't take a lot of initiative to reduce their own privilege, and that's a sad thing. Although an example of that not being the case is the Reformation, wherein you had this crazy thing where an elitist group was educated and could speak Latin, and the Bible, which was the most powerful tool of the world at the time, was in Latin. So if you were educated, you could speak Latin, you could understand the Bible, you could, scientific words were based on Latin or Greek, and you had this privilege, this knowledge that was only available to you because you were educated in Latin. And then you had a bunch of people in different countries translating the Bible to reduce their own privilege by bringing the Bible, essentially the book of power at the time, to other languages so that people who didn't have the same level of education could get into the spirituality, the knowledge, and essentially the power of the age. So, perhaps the situation with Brock, Turner, will help catalyze that, will help catalyze people realizing the effect of privilege on our society and maybe doing something about it. I don't know. That's a digression. That's a rant. And that rant was brought to you today because of caffeine. So let's get back into catalysts. If you have a lot of iron in your diet, that's great. But what will really get that iron going is the catalyst of vitamin C. If you have vitamin C with your iron, be it orange juice or an orange or even red wine, right? This is why red wine is often served with beef, is that it has the vitamin C to catalyze the uptake of the iron into your system. If you have beef with milk, it's not going to do as much for you. Sorry, cheeseburger lovers, but dairy products, the calcium and iron sort of fight for the same place in your body's uptaking, and you uptake less iron or less calcium. It's better to separate them. Versus if you have it with vitamin C, that'll catalyze the iron uptake. So back to caffeine, we've come full circle. Follow up on caffeine, right? That's what this is? I'm really humming with coffee right now. If you have coffee, it will have your body firing on more cylinders. That's the effects of caffeine. But I found that for me, I can have a coffee, not utilize it, force my body to process it, and it'll wake me up a bit, but not much happens. But if I have a coffee and then do something I really enjoy that gets me pumped up, particularly something athletic, particularly doing a couple of katas or going for a run, then that will activate the caffeine. That little bit of something that takes more effort and energy than my usual day-to-day will catalyze the caffeine's effect on my brain and on my body, and suddenly I will be firing at a lot more cylinders than if I had just had that coffee. So, today I've had too much coffee, which is something I do sometimes. Caffeine is a hell of a drug. But then I did a couple of katas, because, I'm not at work today. Thank goodness. And,
You're welcome.
yeah, girl over there convinced me to take a day off to spend time with her. I don't usually play hooky, but it's been a great day. Yeah, where were we? So, caffeine. I find that activating it, boom. So if you ever want to be up, if you ever want to really up your performance, don't just have a coffee or two, or three, or whatever, and maybe throw some Baileys in there, because that's the best. Don't just have some caffeine with or without alcohol. Take an extra 5-10 minutes to do a couple stretches, go for a bit of a run, do a little bit of yoga if you're a millennial, because we love that shit. Whatever it is that you're going to do, little Tai Chi, little, pump a bit of iron, doesn't matter. Those extra 5 minutes will activate that caffeine, will catalyze its effect on your body, and you will be killing it. Boom. Love, Mikey. Bye, Internet.